I don't know if this video is going to be very inspirational, but I hope at the least that it's motivational. It's an important topic, and I apologize ahead of time. I usually plan out what I'm going to say a little bit better than this, but this one's going to be pretty stream of consciousness. A little bit ago, we received a great comment on one of our videos, and I'm going to read this to you here. What I find horrifying, even more than death, is to end up weak, frail, and dependent on others for basic needs when I am older. I am a 61-year-old woman and love lifting heavy. I will never give it up. It's a game changer. Now, I don't have this person's name, and I wouldn't give it to you if I did, but I need a name, and I'm going to call her Sally. Sally has got this nailed. She's got it down. When people typically think about strength training, we think about our muscles getting stronger, and that's absolutely true, and that's great. We get bigger, we get stronger muscles, but we forget about a lot of other things that goes along with that, right? Your bones get denser. That's hugely important. Your connective tissues, your tendons, your ligaments, all of these become stronger as well. So there's a whole bunch of improvements that go along with your life when you strength train. And all of these improvements in your bones, in your muscles, these are what help you not end up weak, frail, and dependent on others for basic needs like Sally's talking about when she's older, right? I know that my time here on earth is finite, and I'm a Christian, and if any of you want to talk about that, I would be more than happy to do it. I know where I'm going to end up afterward. I'm not worried about that, but I know that my time here on earth is finite, and I know that the quality of my life at the end is not going to be as good, let's say, as it is right now, right? Let's say I live to be 80. Heck, let's say I live to be 90. I want my quality of life. Dr. Jonathan Sullivan talks about this great in his book, The Barbell Prescription. We'll link to it below. We talk about the quality of life graph. You want your quality of life. You don't want it to look like this, right? Where it goes like this, and then it dials, goes down for a long time, and then here, here is death, right? Or even worse, that it's here, and then it goes way down, and then it's down here. Your quality of life is way down for a long time because you're weak, because you're frail, because we have to be cared for by someone else. What we want it to look like, and granted, many factors are out of our control, but our strength is not one of those. We want our quality of life to be here, and then it tails off real fast, and that's when death occurs. Maybe the quality of life diminishes greatly the last year of life, the last 2 years of life. I'm making up the numbers, of course, but in as much as it is within my control, and many things are not within my control, but in as much as it is within my control, I want my quality of life to be as high as possible so I can play with my kids, so I can hopefully someday play with my grandkids. We've got grandparents here. Our grandmas are squatting, and these are normal people, right? These are people with kids, with grandkids. They've got jobs. Maybe they're retired. None of them came to testify with the hope of becoming a competitive lifter, or for crying out loud, a bodybuilder or anything like that. And they come to us, they get coaching, they get stronger. Our grandmas are squatting and deadlifting in the hundreds, the 200s, sometimes 300s. Our grandpas are squatting and deadlifting in the 200s, the 300s, sometimes the 400s. These are regular people who put in real consistent work, and as a result, they get phenomenally strong, and their quality of life as a result is much better. That stronger version of you is out there and has a better quality of life than that weaker version of you. Now, if you're in your 20s, this video is probably not very inspirational. It's probably not even very motivational for you, but you've got parents, you've got grandparents, maybe you can send it to them. But if you're in your 30s and your 40s, muscle loss, we know muscle loss starts in your 30s or your 40s, and it really accelerates in your 60s and 70s. So our quality of life starts to go down. And weakness looks lonely. You think about what weakness looks like. Weakness is the lack of ability to go out and do things with your family and your friends because you can't move. Weakness is looking at a chair and thinking about that chair and thinking, I don't know if I want to sit down in that chair because I got to think about how I'm going to get back up. It's walking into a bathroom, and you now think of the bathroom as a dangerous place because getting in and out of the shower is now a dangerous thing. It's wet. Everything in that room is hard. A fall is a great risk. Let's talk about falling for a moment here, because getting strong has huge benefits in avoiding the risk of falling and mitigating the risks of falling when it does happen. We think about getting strong, and we talk about this all the time as starting strength coaches, and as we help other coaches develop as well, we think about our balance, and we know that getting stronger makes it easier to be in balance, right? You get stronger, and suddenly climbing that flight of stairs doesn't exhaust you quite as much. Maybe it doesn't exhaust you at all compared to what it used to. So you go from age 65 to age 66, and at age 65 it exhausted you to get to the top of those stairs, and at age 66 it no longer does so because you took your squat from 0 to 135 pounds or something like that. So you get to the top of those stairs, and now staying in balance is a relatively easy thing. It is sub-maximal. Because you do hard things in the weight room, you have made everything else that much easier. So now you get to the top of the stairs, and you're not as likely to be so exhausted that one little misstep, makes you fall over. But Yeah, that's being in balance. Being in balance just simply means that you have your center of mass within your base of support. So somewhere within, the space that's basically created by my feet is a way of thinking about it. But here's actually a better way of thinking about being in balance, and a simpler way. Being in balance is simply not falling over. Now that may seem kind of obvious, but here's what I mean. Everybody trips. I trip, kids trip, your parents trip, your grandparents trip. The question is, can you save yourself from what happens when you trip, right? You trip because you caught your foot on the rug, your kid left something in the hallway, a toy or something like that, and you tripped on that. You weren't looking where you were going. Everybody trips. Everybody almost falls, no matter what their age. And at that moment, you've got to be able to put your foot down real quick and try to save yourself. For a brief moment, your center of mass was not over your base of support. Can you put your foot down fast enough? And assuming that you can put your foot down fast enough, that quick, hard stomp to try to save yourself, we're not going to do the force calculations here, but that's something like 2 to 3 to 4 times the amount of force that your leg typically takes when you're standing. Question is that an easy thing for you? Is that a manageable thing for you? All right. Well, if I've strength trained and now I'm 70 and I'm 80 and I'm still strength training, that's going to be a manageable thing, hopefully, right? So hopefully that's going to be a manageable thing, and I can indeed save myself. But the weaker version of me, who never strength trained, that might be more than the amount of strength that I have, and that's a fall. When that saving step, when that balance saving step, when that balance preserving step becomes too difficult, that's a fall. And then on top of that, if I never strength trained, then maybe my bones, especially this is true for women trying to fend off sarcopenia, osteoporosis, right? We're trying to fend off these things. We want dense bones so that if we do fall, if we can't make that step now, are we going to have a hip fracture because we've fallen? Because the mortality rate on hip fractures, you can go look it up yourself, it's not good. The chance of dying within some amount of time after a hip fracture is real stinking high because of all the things, all the kind of the cofactors that go along with being in that situation. So I'm not a big fan of using fear as a motivator, but man, in this case it is. Getting strong is great when you're young. Yeah, it improves your quality of life even when you're younger, but man, does it increase our quality of life. English is a difficult language. Man, does it improve our quality of life? Does it help preserve our quality of life as we get older? So Sally, my apologies, Sally, because I know that's probably not your real name. She's got it right. What she finds horrifying even more than death is to end up weak, frail, and dependent. So don't end up weak, frail, and dependent. I'm gonna get there eventually, but I want that amount of time to be as short as possible. I want to be strong. I want to be resilient. I want to be as independent as possible, and in as much as it is within your control, as it is within your power, I encourage you to do the same thing. Strength training doesn't need to be your hobby. It's the thing that you do so that you can still have hobbies, so that you can still play with your kids, play with your grandparents, play with your grandkids, go out with friends, so that you can do, just the everyday things that you want to do in life. This isn't 100 years ago or 200 years ago where the stress of life was already very physical, right? We live in an age of wonderful technological adaptations. But because of those technological adaptations and innovations, there's a lot of things that we don't have to do anymore. We can do a job that involves sitting for most of the day. We can travel from place to place without walking, without using our legs. And as a result, you can kind of think of strength training. Strength training is not an all-day thing, right? 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, a lot of life, a lot of your day was physical activity. Well, it's not necessarily anymore. And this doesn't need to be your entire day. It just needs to be 45 to 90 minutes, an hour to 90 minutes, a couple times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. It will greatly improve the quality of your life. So I won't say any more because it's long enough as it is. Go out there, get stronger, live better.